A very warm welcome to our live question and answer session for new students like yourselves who are interested in an Initial Teacher Education programme here at the University of Glasgow's School of Education. My name is Jennifer Farrer. I'm a senior lecturer here in the School of Education, and I'm the Director of Initial Teacher Education at the University of Glasgow, and I'm really happy to have you here today. I'm also so pleased to be joined by some of our very recent alumni from our undergraduate primary teaching programme, and they're going to be here with us in a second to talk to us about their experiences and to answer some questions. Now, if there's anything that you want to ask that hasn't been covered, you want to ask the panel a question, you can put your questions into the chat, and you'll find some relevant links will also be posted there that you might find helpful. Okay, so now without any further ado, it's time to meet our lovely panel. So hopefully going to be joining me here on this virtual stage. Here's Amy and Sarah and Danny. Lovely. Thank you so much for joining us here today. I'm going to whiz around our virtual room and ask you just to briefly introduce yourself, if that is okay. So I'm going to start with Amy. Hello, Amy.
Hello.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm Amy. I've recently graduated at the University of Glasgow, and I'm currently in my probation year at North Lanarkshire Council.
Thanks, Amy. So your probationary year, and we'll talk about this afterwards, is the compulsory year that you complete after your initial teacher education qualification that fully qualifies you. But we'll come to that in a little while. And then we're going to come to Sarah. Hi, Sarah.
Hi there. Thank you for having me. I'm Sarah, and I have recently graduated from the University of Glasgow, and I'm in my probationary year at Glasgow City Council, and I'm happy to be here.
Thank you very much. And I didn't ask Amy, maybe Sarah, you could tell us what class are you currently teaching?
Sarah,
Oh, sorry, I'll go to Amy first. Amy, who are you currently teaching?
I've got primary 3.
Primary 3. And Sarah, who are you with?
I have a primary 4 class.
Primary 4 class, okay. So thanks so much. And Danny, hi Danny.
Hi Jennifer. I am Danny. I am also a probationer. I'm at Edinburgh City Council. I have a wonderful primary 3 class. And I finished the MA Duke 5 last year.
That's great. And so just to confirm, all 3 of our panels, they did the 5-year undergraduate teaching programme. That's becoming a primary teacher over 5 years. And that's called our MA Duke programme. And that gives you with an integrated master's qualification at the end of your studies. And as all of our 3 panellists will be able to tell us some more about their experiences on the programme. So I wonder if I can ask you, first of all, given that people watching this will be thinking about their offer to come and study at the University of Glasgow, I wonder if any of you could just share some of the reasons that helped you pick the University of Glasgow to come and to do your primary qualification. Who would like to jump in? And I've already warned them I might pick them at random. Who wants to? Shall I start with you, Amy?
Yeah, that's fine. I picked the University of Glasgow because it's probably a really well-known university. I was going back to university as a mature student as well, so I wanted to make sure I was going somewhere that had a really good reputation. I'd looked into the different universities in Scotland that were doing primary education, and I liked the programme that it offered. I also liked that the Catholic Teaching Certificate was integrated within the course as well.
Thanks, Amy. And again, we're going to come back to have a little question about the Catholic Teaching Certificate a bit later on. So that's a great thing for us to flag up at this moment. Thanks. Now, Danny, you were going to come in and say something as well.
Yeah, I think from looking at the modules that you do as part of the MA Duke, there was quite an equal weighting of education and practice and education and society. So sort of the drivers of education and really the purpose of it, and then also kind of how that's done. And I feel like they're quite 2 very equal sort of capacities to have a good understanding of as a teacher. I think as well as that, outside of the uni, I was really keen to come to Glasgow because of its sort of history. Glasgow's got a lot of history to do with like diversity and equality, inclusion, all that sort of activism. And I think those form really the basis of your teacher identity. And it's really important to sort of get that in your teacher ed before you kind of go out into the classroom. So Glasgow was just kind of the perfect context for me.
Thanks, Danny. And you've introduced some really interesting themes there around about some of the big issues that our primary, well, all of all colleagues within education are facing just now, some of those big themes. Thanks for that answer. Sarah, can I bring you in as well?
Absolutely. I'm much the same as Amy and Danny. I really I felt that I liked the fact that at Glasgow it offered the integrated master's course. That was something that really, really interested me. I had left school and already studied in the early years as an early years worker, and I found sort of looking into theory very, very interesting. So I liked that it offered a lot of academic background, and yeah, and I just love Glasgow, and it was.
There we go.
I'm really, yeah.
It's a great city and a beautiful,
It's a
beautiful
lovely,
campus.
lovely.
And it's a lovely city, absolutely. And I say that as an Edinburgh resident, just like Danny. Now, both of you, Sarah and Danny, you've already just mentioned there something around about kind of theory and kind of the sociological aspects and the academic aspects. But obviously, when you're at university, you're spending a lot of your time doing university-based study, and then you're going off and you're spending some time in school. So I wonder if you can maybe talk a little bit about that kind of the way that we have a balance between time in school and time in university. Who'd like to come in and talk about that? Sarah, do you want to jump in because your mic's on?
Oh, absolutely. I think it's a really, really gradual ease you get into sort of being in the classroom. In your first year, you kind of tip your toes into being in schools. There's a lot of theory and essays and things that you get a sort of foundation, and that sort of progresses year after year, and then you build up to your final placement, which is a 12-week block in your fourth year, which sounds very, very daunting, but I would say that was my favourite block because you really got to know your class. It was a full term with them, and most of all, I felt ready for it because I had that sort of stepping stones over the years at uni so yeah, I felt that it's a real progression you get from in terms of university and being in the classroom.
Thanks so much, Sarah. So I think what I was getting from you there was the sense that you're in first year, you're building things up slowly up to fourth year when this big placement block is. Then either Amy or Danny like to come in, anything there that you could add about the balance between school and university? Danny?
Hi. Yeah, I definitely think sort of your academic studies do keep up, like as you go through year 1 to 5 and you do progress to look at sort of more complex issues, and you get kind of more and more systemic in terms of education. And your placements kind of mirror that in a way. You do spend sort of more time on placement as you have this broader knowledge from uni. And you're able to sort of put that more into your practice because you do get that sort of gradual integration of responsibility in terms of the classroom. And I do think it's a very common anxiety for student teachers, regardless if you're primary or secondary or whatever, to sort of, we're just going to be chucked in day one and have to sort of deal with the class. And it's certainly not like that. You'll sort of take on responsibility as your knowledge emerges from your study at uni.
That's lovely. And again, that sense of your confidence growing as you now into your probationary year as well. Lovely. Amy, do you want to tell us anything else about placement, or anything to do with fourth year placement, or whatever you think?
Yeah, really similar to both Danny and Sarah, that especially when you're talking about being out on placement, it's your remit changes each time. So it is not only from your academics like studies, it will continue to build up as you go out. So your first week you're allowed to observe, and then you build it up through that way. And that's probably one of the best ways to get like your teaching practical experience, and you're allowed to learn and adapt and change. And I really enjoyed that part of the course as well.
Yeah, that's a really helpful thing to mention as well. And I think what I'd always maybe add to that is all the way through you're supported. So you'll have a mentor when you're out in school. You have a mentor in school who works with you all the time, but also you have a school experience tutor from the university who's always checking in on you, comes out to watch you teach, talks to you about your teaching and helps you improve. So it's not, as Danny said, we're not just chucking you into school and saying see you later. There's an interaction all the way through the time that you're in school to make sure that you're supported and that you're learning. Great. Now we've already had a mention of essays and things like this, but there are essays involved in coming to do a degree at the University of Glasgow, of course. What's your tips then on keeping on top of your coursework when you're placement? And of course, coursework for a student teacher isn't just essays, it's lesson plans and
being organised as you
evaluations and all kinds of things. So what's on keeping on top of your work? Are we back? There we go.
Yeah, I would just say be as organised as you can and try and do like a pyramid of what needs to be done first. You can spend an hour a day chipping, so I would make sure my lesson plans were done. That was a priority, was on placement, but in the background I would maybe be working away the bigger essays that you would get, especially in fourth year. I would be working away at them, so it wasn't you finish and the due dates could be quite close as well, so it's never to fully drop the ball. Try and stay on top with it as much as you can. It is very challenging, but like Jennifer said, there's lots of support and your peers help you to get through it as well. But just trying to stay on it as best as you can. And even if everyone works differently, some people want to do it months in advance, others are right to the crunchy time, and that's okay. Just take your own pace, just try and stay on top of it. Don't let it get too much.
Love that, the crunchy time, as when things get a little bit too crunchy. So any advice from you, Sarah or Danny, about balance, keeping on top of the coursework, keeping on top of everything, especially when you're on placement? Danny?
Yeah, I think sort of there is sort of a high expectation in terms of your essays and your lesson plans. You are studying to become a teacher at the end of the day, so it's part and parcel. I think sort of it's quite a personal thing as you come to uni, kind of really with any course as well as teaching, you'll kind of figure out what works for you, and what works for me maybe wouldn't have been the same as Sarah or Amy. I do think that one thing to bear in mind though is, your placements along with your essays are organised by the university. So they're fully aware of when your deadlines are. You're not going to have sort of that 5 essays due in one day and so many lesson plans. It is sort of, I remember going to placement and then coming away to do a bit of time for my essays and then going back to placement. I think that was in fourth year. So it does sort of balance out, but it is quite a high expectation, but you will get there.
That's nice advice. Thank you. Sarah, do you have anything to add? Any top tips?
I think definitely Danny's point there about the fact that all of our essays and coursework are provided by the university that are fully aware of what our remit is a really, really good point. Everything is, you're not going to have a big essay due when the university know that you're in the middle of a final week of your placement. Everything is really put in place so that to help your own practice. But my top tip would definitely be just try and be as organised as you possibly can. And you might not be the most organised person, but there's a way you find your way that works, and everybody's different, but you just need to make sure that you do what's right for you, and you make sure that you can go in with confidence and say that this is what I need to do, and you have confidence in that you're going to get all of your deadlines. And everyone does. They've got their own way that they do it, but you've just got to make sure that you find your way. Yeah.
Okay. That's wise advice, Sarah, because I think there can be a tendency to compare yourself to others, especially in something like teaching, where you're kind of wondering what the kind of person you're going to become. So I think all three of you have given some really helpful advice there, that find the way that suits you. But I would also add to that as well, remember that wherever university you go to, we hope you come to the University of Glasgow, there's all support available for you as well. So if you do get to a bit of a crunchy time, as Amy said, we understand that, and we know that you're learning to balance all of these different things. Going on placement is an exhausting experience in lots of different ways, as writing essays are also very, very demanding thing. So we recognise that, and there's always support. You just need to tell us that you need a bit of help, and that support will be provided. Now, a quick question then about preparing for placements. What happens on day one of a placement? Are you supposed to go in with lesson plans ready for every single hour of the day? Is that what happens?
No. I think that's sort of like the assumption by every student teacher in Scotland. It's a sort of natural worry, but certainly not the case. Definitely in your first few placements especially, but really with your first week or so, you're going in and really your task is to get to know the children. Even as a probationer now, when I started with my own class, I wasn't going in and sort of trying to cover as much curriculum as I could in the first week. It was definitely, you need to know your children. to put yourself at ease, of course, and to really get into the ethos of the school, but also that's how you sort of achieve effective learning. You need to know the children's needs, you need to know their strengths, you need to know kind of where they've come from. So that first week, really your priority is just kind of getting to holistically know the children, know the class, maybe know the area that the school's in, but you certainly wouldn't be asked to go in and start teaching on day one. I mean, that's quite unrealistic, but also wouldn't be effective teaching. So.
That's a really good answer. Thanks so much. Now I'm going to move on because I'm aware of the time, and we've got a couple of questions left to get through. But Amy, I'm going to come to you next because you've already mentioned the Catholic Teaching Certificate, which is something that you did during your time. I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about how do you qualify to teach in a Catholic school?
Yeah, so to teach in the Catholic school, you'll need a Catholic Teaching Certificate. With Glasgow University, that was integrated into your programme, so it was additional. You would do, your first 2 years you went into theology, so it was trying to understand everything. It would really delve deeper into the faith and trying to understand that. And then going past your second year, it's then like a Catholic Teaching Certificate course. The additional work, it's more reflective. It wasn't anything too laborious where you were feeling more under pressure. And it was actually quite nice to look at like how you could teach. It would teach you different teaching strategies and give you different experiences. I really enjoyed it.
Great, so thanks for that, Amy. And just to reiterate, it's an optional qualification that you can do alongside your studies. So not everybody does theology, for example. If you're not doing the Catholic Teaching Certificate, you do other courses instead. But it's there as a programme that runs alongside and means that if you complete the CTC while you're at the University of Glasgow, then you can go straight into working within a Catholic school. Okay, so that's really useful. Thanks so much. Now this question I'm quite excited about because obviously, as Danny's already mentioned, becoming a teacher is a really serious business. This is a really important role within our societies and communities. And one of the things that you'll do during the MA-Duke is do a little piece of research. You're going to say it wasn't little, it was enormous. But you do a research project in your 5th year, so that's your dissertation. I wonder if I could just ask you just to quickly tell us about what you chose to specialise in your 5th year, a little bit about your topic, and then maybe a little bit how that topic has been useful to you in your first year within practice, if it has been. So, Sarah, I'm going to come to you first this time, if that's okay.
Lovely. So yeah, in my 5th year, my dissertation was based on pupil attendance, and my research question was what teacher intervention strategies mitigate pupil non-attendance. So it was a big literature review where I looked at studies across the world where there were teacher intervention strategies put in place in order to help those of our learners who maybe don't make it through the school doors every single day. And I found recommendations in that and then aligned them with policy. And I feel it really has made me more aware of the impact of attendance. And as a teacher this year, I notice if there's a child in my class who's maybe not in as much as they should be, and it's really I feel that I now feel I'm making the links between there are alarm bells ringing and I know what to do about that. So I really enjoyed that project, and I do feel I'm using it every single day.
Thanks, Sarah, because obviously attendance is one of is a real priority within the education system to make sure that children are coming to school and that they're engaging with education. And as you said, your literature review, which for anyone who doesn't know, is the process of looking at all the research that exists on a topic and then organising it and thinking about how that matters to your own context. And it sounds as if that was a really great opportunity for you to look globally, Sarah, at some of the issues relating to attendance in other places, and then think, so how does that matter to the learners in my classroom? And it's lovely to hear that you've been thinking about it since. Thanks so much. Danny, can I come to you next? Tell us about your project, please.
Of course, yeah. I think sort of by the time that you're getting to your dissertation, you've done 5 years in uni, you've done 5 years of placements. So really it's kind of natural that you'll develop a niche for something that you think is sort of really important, just by looking at sort of Scotland and your pupils and everything, I looked at food insecurity and how that affects learning and sort of how schools and teachers can respond to that. And I mean, in my probation, that's been so valuable. I mean,
we're back.
Oh, sorry, did I cut out?
I think it was me, Danny. I'm sorry. So you keep going. You said it's been really helpful.
Yeah. In my probation, I mean, as I'm sure everyone's aware, sort of poverty is a massive social issue that is sort of on the rise. And so I've been able to kind of put in interventions to help children in my class and in the broader school, but also as a probationer, you get loads of opportunities to network with other sort of early career teachers and more experienced teachers. And so that was an opportunity for me to sort of guide other teachers so that the effect of your dissertation, really the impact is more than just inside your classroom, it's sort of in your broader council or Scotland or whatever.
Oh, lovely. So have you been sharing your findings in from your dissertation, or your knowledge around about food insecurity with colleagues within your local authority, Danny?
Yeah, definitely. So at Edinburgh City Council, we get training usually about once a week. It's usually after school and usually in person. And I mean, a lot of the learning that goes on there is just through discussion with other probationers. And so people will talk about their schools and sort of what the needs of that are. And if poverty is a big one, I'll sort of advise strategies or things that I've found to be quite effective, not only in the literature, but then also in my own classroom. And that's great because that kind of opens a door for them to give me advice for what I'm struggling with or what I don't have a vast amount of knowledge on yet. So your dissertation does definitely, it affects more than you and it affects more than your class.
That's lovely. Thanks so much, Danny. Amy, can I come to you now? Just a wee bit about your dissertation.
Yes, my dissertation was looking at inclusion within Scotland. The question was, to what extent does Scotland's inclusive education approach effectively meet the needs of pupils with additional support needs? I had chosen to look at that, like Danny says, through experience of your placements throughout the year, your years at university. And during that time, I had the opportunity to work in an additional support needs school alongside, and I could see the disparities between how children were integrated in an inclusive approach in mainstreaming and then in an ASN school. So I wanted to look at what's been done not only in policy, but I also wanted to look at teachers' opinions and views and try and see what works well, what works better and where the gaps are. I have found that I'm still really passionate and interested in it. And I do think that there is becoming more of awareness. And when you are talking to other colleagues, some that have been qualified for years, it is something where there's a gap in education for teachers to be trained in how to be able to effectively support children within the constraints of a mainstream classroom. So it's been really interesting in that and seeing it and trying to work through it, and yeah, enjoyed it.
That's really interesting. And again, Amy, just like Danny and Sarah's topics, yours is a really important topic within Scottish education. You know, how do we teach inclusively? How can we support children with additional support needs? And again, and I love the powerful experience you've had from your own practice about looking at two different contexts and then formulating your research approach from that. That's lovely. Thank you so much. We're nearly there. Now, all of you've mentioned that we know from you've told us already, your probationer teachers. And this, as I've already mentioned, is the first year you have when you finish your ITE programme. Tell us how your degree helped to prepare you perhaps for your year as a probationer. So has there been anything that you found that's been useful as you've gone into this year where you have your own class now, don't you? So you're in charge of your own class, but as Danny said, you still get support and training all the way along from your local authority. So any thoughts on that, about what it's like being a probationer, or maybe how your degree at the University of Glasgow helps support you as a probationer? Who'd like to come in first? Thanks, Danny.
I feel like it was actually quite a natural progression for me from 5th year of the MA Duke into my probation year. I think I mentioned this earlier, but there's quite a lot of theory at Glasgow Uni, and you do a lot of education society, a lot of education and practice, and that kind of having that background really well established really helped me in my probation year, because I was able to be a lot more independent. I think I didn't just have single references for things. I was able to sort of exercise my self-efficacy, because I understood really the principles of education, was able to justify what I was doing. I think a lot of the electives that you're offered at Glasgow University are really, really valuable. I did one on culturally relevant pedagogy that I use every single week, every day in my classroom. And there's a massive focus on inclusion at Glasgow University, and that is one of the biggest priorities for Scottish education, for education in general. And so really having that background has kind of really, really pushed me through my probation, allowed me to be a lot more independent.
Thanks, Danny. I think everything you said today really sings to the values that you've now taken into the profession as well. So thank you for sharing that. Amy or Sarah, anything you'd like to bring in there?
Yeah, I'm quite happy. I would say the same as Danny, especially inclusion in Glasgow University. They really drive how big of an importance it is within Scotland, and I think that also added to why I'm quite passionate and went down other routes to try and build upon that, to be able to advocate for it for the children that are in your care, because ultimately that is what you need to go and do. You are quite often their voice for a lot of them, to support them through not only academic but their life journeys. I would say, as Danny said again, you are totally, like, it's progressive for you to go out, and as well, I think by the time you get to your probation year, you're ready. You want your own class. You want that bit more autonomy as well, to make you've got your tutor and your supporter within your school, but you want that bit more autonomy to take maybe risks that your previous mentors wouldn't have done when you were in their classroom, and try and adapt different techniques and practices. But you're ready and you're supported throughout the whole time. So yeah, it's been great.
Thanks, Amy. And Sarah, do you have anything you want to add as well?
Absolutely, much the same. It really felt like a natural progression, moving from the 5-year course at Glasgow onto probation. You're still supported in your probation year. You get a training day, go to training, and you go out to do more training opportunities to know about in your local authority. I feel like Glasgow as well, they have a big push on nurture, and I'm a probationer in Glasgow City Council, and they have a massive push on nurturing Glasgow, the nurturing city, and I feel that's really been valuable to my own practice, knowing about the need for nurture, the importance of nurture, taking a nurturing approach to our learners. It's that really, really supported me, and I felt it was a real natural transition to go into my probation year.
Thank you so much. All right, we're just about out of time. I wonder whether you have any, if I go around all three of you one last time, and if you have any advice for future students. It doesn't have to be about placement. It can be about anything. It can just be about coming to Glasgow, being at the University of Glasgow, or being in the programme. What would be a piece of advice you would give to somebody who's going to start at the St Andrews building in September? Anybody want to come in first? Amy, can I come to you first?
Yeah, of course.
Bit of advice?
My bit of advice would be to get involved with any opportunity that you can, with lecturers and with other students. It really enhances your experience at university, and peer support. I would really, if there's any peer support going, get involved with that. It'll keep you going. Everyone's going through it, and it's a lot, and it can feel sometimes you're not going to be able to do it, but you can, and that's through the good support networks that are available at Glasgow.
Thanks, Amy. So get involved with everything, any opportunity that comes along, and take advantage of support. Sarah, what about you? Any advice you would have?
I think, just as Amy said, get involved with things, enjoy it, and look after yourself, and just try and get involved with as much as you possibly can, and try and get involved with clubs and different sports societies, and just because that's where you meet new people. As much as you meet people within you meet lots of lovely people in your course, it's a chance to meet other people. So just get involved with as much as you possibly can.
Lovely. Thanks, Sarah and Danny.
I mean, I'm a bit biased, but I definitely believe sort of Glasgow is one of the best contexts in Scotland as an emergent teacher. So I would just say sort of continue to be socially engaged, like get out into Glasgow, the city, as well as the uni as much as you can. So that could be sort of going to different youth groups. It could be sort of even just venturing out of the West End, or even going to museums and art galleries. Just get involved with the local community outside of the uni as well, because it will benefit you as a teacher.
Lovely. That's really nice advice. So thank you all for all of your inputs. And that brings us to the end of today's question and answer session. So we all really hope that you found it useful. So this recording will be available here, but also on our website for the next few days if you want to watch anything back. To find out more about studying at the University of Glasgow, you can visit our YouTube channel to find out some more information about the programme, including an overview and some student videos. And if you have any questions about any other programmes, you might be thinking about undergraduate degrees in childhood practice, or whether it's MD Tech Ed, please do get in touch and ask us some questions. You can connect with other students to find out what it's like to study in Glasgow, and you can chat online through UniBuddy. So thank you again for joining our session today. Thank you to all of our excellent panellists and ambassadors for the programme, and we really hope it was helpful and really hope to welcome you to campus very soon. Thank you.